Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. How many passes did you count? The correct answer is 15 passes. But did you see the gorilla?
What you've watched now was an experiment that was done by psychologists Daniel Simons and Christopher Chabris. Now, I'm looking down at my notes because I want to make sure that everything I share with you today is evidence-based and scientific. This experiment is called the Invisible Gorilla Experiment. And it raises a very interesting thought in my mind. Like, imagine what we might be missing every single day simply because of where we choose to place our focus. When our mind, or when we choose to put our mind to focus on one specific task, we miss out on all of the other irrelevant information because we simply place our focus on processing that task to its best capacity. And in that case, our mind considered the gorilla to be noise. So it eliminated the gorilla from our, image processing. Now, I have to say this because not everyone missed on seeing the gorilla. And that was actually the case in the experiment. 50% of the participants did see the gorilla, while the other 50 missed it completely. That goes down to a couple of points, mainly being the background of the person, the experiences that they had, their upbringing, but also the complexity of the task, the environment, expectations that they had from the experiment, and so on. So we cannot assume that every single person misses out on what is so-called, the noise or irrelevant information to a respective task. Some people do notice the anomalies, while others just focus on following the instructions, which in that case would be like counting the balls. From a scientific point of view, scientists say that our brain, capture an enormous amount of information within a given second, and they've actually put it in number form, being 1 million per second. But the trick here is that the conscious mind processes only 40 to 50% of that 11 million. Now, it's very obvious that our brain has a filter. And I have to give credit to Mel Robbins, who very eloquently explains this on her podcast. Now, this filter is called RAS for short, and reticular activating system for long. And in a simple term, it is a network of nerves. Think of it like a net on the brain, just to simplify matters. And this filter captures 4 main pieces of information. One being your name. So obviously, even if you're in a crowded place or you're around people and someone calls out your name, that's going to get your attention. The second thing being any safety threat, whether psychological or physical, like you're being physically attacked. And the third being any signals related to, a romantic partner, so like attraction, seduction, but it could also be feelings that your partner may be cheating on you. So anything that involves emotional attachment, basically. And the fourth, which is actually the most important one, it is what your mind believes is important. Now, we have an equivalent filter to the mind, just called conscious critical faculty. Now, this conscious critical faculty takes in all of the information that is coming from external sources, and it maps it or compares it to the present blueprint or anything that has been tried and tested. If it doesn't fit within that blueprint, it immediately, filters it out and considers it as irrelevant information. So let me give you two examples to sort of make this easy to digest. One is, consider if you want to buy a car, you research about that car, and then as you go on the street, whether you're driving, walking, or whatnot, you start to notice this car frequently around you and how it's commonly being used, for example. So that's sort of the selective attention aspect at play here. Now, similarly, let's think about this from a negative self-talk perspective. And that's my second example. If you've always told yourself, for years that you're a failure or you're not good enough, your mind will only focus or primarily focus on evidence that support this belief. So examples of inadequacy or failures will be, the focus of what your mind captures to prove that you're actually right. And that's called confirmation bias. It's basically a cognitive filtering mechanism to screen out information that contradicts any existing narratives. Now, this leaves me thinking about a very important question. Does that mean that reality does not exist if it's all based on perception? Now, I will answer this question by sharing that there are two types of reality. One is the conceptual reality, and the other is the factual reality. So let me give you an example. The factual reality is that, they're facts. You cannot deny them. You cannot negotiate them. For example, going back to the experiment, the gorilla exists. The basketballs are there. The players are there. These are all facts. They exist. Now, the conceptual, or let's call it experiential reality, it's the reality that exists within us. It's inside us. So it is what we perceive based on what we focus on. That's why two people can live the same event but have a completely different experience. Again, to simplify it, I'm going to give an example. Let's think of a couple that are spending a quiet evening together. One might feel or might perceive this evening as, quiet and intimate. And the other might consider it very cold and distant, disengaging. And, sharing all of this information, it calls for some sort of emotional reflection, from myself as well. I wonder, and I want you to share your feedback with me as well in the comments. What is it that we're focusing on so we're hyper focused and zoomed in on that we're missing out on other surrounding elements? Like, are you really seeing the whole picture, or are there things that you're missing out on? And then if you actually stop searching for that, target or focus of yours, would you really see a different, reality or perception than what you have today? I'm going to leave you with these thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you think, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and share with me any topics you'd like me to explore on YouTube. Thank you.